a basic type of stoichiometry problem. Before we go over a basic or average stoichiometry problem, one thing you need to know in a stoichiometry problem is, first thing is the balance equation. If you don't have a balance equation, you cannot do a stoichiometry problem. It's kind of like saying, hey, go make me some cookies, but I don't have a recipe for you, and you don't know how to make one. So if you don't have a balance equation, it's like your recipe. If you don't have a recipe, you can't make whatever it is that you want to cook. If you don't have a balance equation, you cannot determine or do a stoichiometry problem. So in a stoichiometry problem, or in a balance equation, all we know is how to go from moles of reactants to moles of products. Moles to moles. Remember how we read chemical equations is always based on moles. So when, in fact, probably when I get to the next slide, which is a sample problem, I'll start with how do I read that equation again. Okay, next thing I have to do is convert stuff into moles if they're not already in moles. So whenever you have a stoichiometry problem and you do not have something in moles, the very first thing you have to do is to convert it to moles, because all we know in the chemical equation is moles to moles. It's kind of like if you know your recipe in cooking, and most baking recipes are, say, cups of flour, cups of sugar. But if you buy a 5-pound bag of flour or 5-pound bag of sugar, the first thing you have to do is convert that into cups, because I have no idea how many cups there are in a 5-pound bag of flour or 5-pound bag of sugar. So in chemistry, if your units are not in moles yet, first thing you have to do is convert it to moles. And what do you usually have if you don't have moles? Most likely you have grams. And how do you convert grams to moles? You need to figure out how many grams there are in a mole. In other words, a molar mass. You find a molar mass from a periodic table. Next thing, use the coefficients of a balance equation to calculate the number of moles of whatever it is that you're looking for, the sought quantity. So use the balance. Well, again, the next slide is a sample question. This is just in words. Okay. One more step in doing stoichiometry problems, convert the moles of whatever it is that you're trying to find, the sought quantity, into whatever units you're asking for. So if the question is asking how many grams, or the mass, in other words, grams, convert it back into whatever it is that you're looking for. Okay, so let's look at a sample question. Here is a sample problem, and the sample problem here says, methanol burns in air according to the following equation. You will be given a balance equation. Well, actually, I shouldn't say it's already balanced. If it's not balanced, you should balance it first. This one is balanced, just to check. 2 carbons on the left, 2 carbons on the right. Oxygens, 2 times 1, 2, plus 3 times 2, or 6 more, so that's 8. Here's 2 times 2, or 4, plus 4 more, that's 8. Hydrogen, that's 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8 hydrogens on the left. And here, 4 times 2, 8 hydrogens on the right. The equation is balanced. But I just wanted to first thing is always make sure the equation that you're given is balanced. If the equation is not balanced, make sure you balance it. Now, let's just, again, review about how we read this balance equation. So, again, that CH3OH is called methanol. Well, obviously, O2, that would be the air, and CO2 carbon oxide, H2O is water. Okay, so this is 2 moles. We're going to read everything as in moles. So in here, in our balance equation, the coefficients to everything are always going to be in moles. We're going to use these moles. 2 moles of methanol and 3 moles of oxygen reacts to make 2 moles of carbon dioxide and 4 moles of water. When we're balancing equations or the coefficients, they're always in moles. So lots of times in cooking, again, your stuff is, or baking, we're usually talking about cups, like 2 cups of flour, 3 cups of sugar, or whatever it is in the recipe. In chemistry, they're going to be in moles. 2 moles of methanol, 3 moles of oxygen react to make 2 moles of carbon dioxide and 4 moles of water. Okay, now that we know what the equation says, let's read what the question is asking. Question says, if you have 209 grams of methanol are used up in this combustion reaction, what is the mass of water produced? So the question is, how much water, H2O obviously is water, how much water is produced when you have 209 grams of methanol? Okay, well, in case you're wondering, like, well, don't you need oxygen and won't it make carbon dioxide? Yes, that's true. Yes, you will need oxygen. Yes, it'll also produce carbon dioxide. But the question's not asking that. It's asking how much water will be produced, what is the mass of water produced, if you had 209 grams of methanol. If 209 grams of methanol are used up in that reaction. Well, the only thing I know from this equation is 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. Coefficient 2 moles of methanol makes coefficient 4 moles of water. But we are not given moles. We're given grams, 209 grams of methanol. So those aren't moles. So always the first thing you need to do, okay, once you have the balanced chemical equation, convert the quantities of the known substances into moles. So the first thing you need to do is change your grams of methanol into moles. Then I know 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. And then I will have to convert that, the last step, convert moles of the quantity sought, or in this case, the quantity I'm trying to find is moles of the sought quantity into desired units. So what I'm trying to find is the mass of water. So I have to change my moles back into grams. So this is what we're trying to do. Change my grams of methanol, which I'm given 209, change it to moles, then change my moles of methanol into moles of water, then change my moles of water into grams of water. That's my overall general thing what I was trying to do. Why didn't I just go from grams to grams? You can't do that. I have no idea. All we know from balanced equation are moles to moles. These are mole ratios. I don't know how to go from grams to grams immediately. So, how do I change grams to moles? The first step. Change grams to moles by figuring out the molar mass of CH3OH. How do I do that? You need a periodic table. The molar mass of methanol, CH3OH, is 1 carbon, 4 hydrogens, and 1 oxygen. Carbon in a periodic table, this is just from memory, is about 12.01. Hydrogen in periodic table, 1.01 times 4, because it's 3 plus 1, 4. And oxygen in periodic table, about 16. So add that all up, whatever that is in a calculator. So change grams to moles by finding molar mass, and that's how much 1 mole would weigh, and divide by the molar mass to find the grams. Again, I'll show you all this stuff after in a few minutes. Then change moles, once you have that, you have moles of methanol. Change moles of methanol into moles of water. How do I do that? From the balanced equation. The coefficients of chemical equation tells me 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. In other words, it's going to be double. It's like a 4-to-2 ratio. Or 4-to-2 is the same as 2-to-1. So it's going to be double. So we use the coefficients of balance equation to do that. Once I have moles of water, how do I change moles of water into grams of water? I need to find the molar mass of water. Change grams of moles or moles of grams by finding molar mass. The molar mass of water from 2 hydrogens and an oxygen. Hydrogen in periodic table, 1.01. Oxygen in periodic table, 16. Okay, so let's do this work. Start off with the given here, 209 grams of methanol. Change grams of methanol into moles of methanol by finding the molar mass of methanol. I've already done it. It's about 32.0. Okay, you can have more sig figs, but right now it's just 3 sig figs. That's the mass of carbon, which is 12.01, 4 hydrogens, 4 times 1.01, plus oxygen, 16, adds up to 32.0. Okay, you can, again, have more sig figs if you like. Next, so now that you have moles of methanol, change moles of methanol into moles of water by the coefficients. And so I'm going to use the coefficients. 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. 2 moles of methanol makes 4 moles of water. But where should I put the methanol? On the top or bottom for this moles of methanol to cancel? Well, if I want the moles of methanol to cancel, I'm going to have to put the moles of methanol on the bottom. 2 moles of methanol on the bottom makes 4 moles of water on the top. So the reason why I do that is so that I can cancel out eventually the moles of methanol. The next step, change my moles of water into grams of water. I change. Okay. Alexa, be quiet. Sorry about that. Moles of water into grams of water. And you can change moles to grams by multiplying by the molar mass, meaning find the molar mass of water. That's 2 times hydrogen. Hydrogen on periodic table is 1.01. Oxygen on periodic table is 16, adds up to, to 3 sig figs, 18.0. One mole of water weighs 18 grams. Okay. Now let's look at the units. Notice grams of methanol here, grams of methanol there, cancel. Moles of methanol on the top, moles of methanol on the bottom, cancel. Moles of water on top, moles of water on bottom, cancel. The only thing that does not cancel are grams of water. And that's what I was trying to find. The question is, what is the mass of water produced? Mass in grams. So what will that be? It'll be 209 times 4 times 18, all divided by 32 and 2. On a calculator to 3 significant figures, that is 235 grams of water. So again, the question was, if you had 209 grams of methanol used up in a combustion, was mass of water produced? Is 235 grams to 3 significant figures. Don't worry about sig figs so much in this chapter, but sig figs technically apply throughout the year, but 235 grams of water. Okay, actually you should be technical about sig figs, so maybe I shouldn't have said that. Don't worry about it so much. In AP classes, sig figs and the AP test, sig figs actually do count, and you would, on an actual AP exam, you would lose points for not rounding to correct number of sig figs. Okay, so just quickly review this thing. First of all, have the balance equation. Okay, all I know from balance equation is moles to moles to moles to moles. 2 moles of this, 3 moles of that, makes 2 moles of CO2 and 4 moles of H2O. So if I'm given grams, change grams to moles, then I do moles to moles by the coefficients, 4 to 2. 4 to 2. Then change my moles back into grams by multiplying by molar mass. We find molar masses always by adding everything up on a periodic table. So this is a very common general stoichiometry problem.